Let's get started. I'm ready.
Cool, let's do it. My name is Mick. I've been with Branch for a little over 4 years now. I'm working on various teams, but I am an account executive here, and I have been working with Naomi in the past. And we originally talked about this as like an idea, like how we could collaborate.
Yeah.
And I'll pass it to Naomi.
Yeah. So my name is Naomi. I met Mick, I think earlier this year. I came on board kind of a Branch webinar similar to this, talking about ethical marketing strategies. Although my title is product marketing manager, I've been in lifecycle marketing for just over 6 years now, primarily working in the marketing automation space, really working with a lot of SaaS companies to further personalize their campaigns and send them at the right time. I currently work at Parcel, which is an email coding platform, and we were acquired by Customer.io in August. So it's been a really fun year, and I'm really excited to talk about lifecycle marketing here. So just in terms of the agenda today, I think we're all here because we want to learn about deep links and lifecycle marketing. But just to kind of summarize it all, I think we're on the same page that mobile marketing is really the latest craze, right? With so many companies going digital first and developing apps, or at least taking into account kind of the desktop versus mobile experience within products. We're going to really start with the basics here and introduce you to the concept of deep linking so that you can go back to your team and talk about it like you've known about it your whole life. And if you already know about deep linking and the title of today's webinar has just really attracted you due to the mysteriousness of it, buckle up and hopefully you'll learn something new. So we're going to secondly kind of bring in how deep links really fit into lifecycle marketing. My opinion is that they should really go hand in hand. They're BFFs, they work well together. And then the fun part is the use cases. We have so many really great use cases of deep links that are currently being used within lifecycle marketing. And then we're going to talk about implementation and next steps. So if you feel kind of disconnected from deep links right now and how to go about implementing them, will hopefully drive you in the right direction. And then finally, we're going to have some Q&A. So the context of today's discussion is really going to be focused on a mix of kind of deep links across multiple channels. My background is primarily in email, so I will be biased towards email, even though I do love push notifications and in-apps as well. So we're going to start us off with a poll. Hopefully it'll pop up here, but we would love to know, out of the people here today that work for a brand that offers a mobile app, does your current company offer a mobile app? Are you primarily web-based? Would love to hear an answer for that. We'll give attendees maybe like 30 seconds to answer, so you have to act quick.
Any bets on the percentage, Naomi, before this pops up?
I feel like it's going to be 60% of people have a mobile app.
I'm definitely curious.
On to the wrong slide. All right, 84%. Well, that's perfect because a lot of the conversation here today is going to be focused around mobile apps. But for the 7 people that primarily are only on web, maybe you're transitioning your audience to a mobile app next year, or you're thinking about it, or you just want to become kind of acquainted with the concept of deep linking into a mobile app. This is perfect. And we have one more. We've got one more poll. I love polls, so this is good for me. For those of you that do work for a company that has a mobile app component, are you currently using deep links? Yes, not sure, no. You can definitely say not sure. I started out my lifecycle marketing journey. I had no idea that I was using deep links, and I was. Apparently. 30 seconds again. I actually don't know what breakdown I'm expecting here. Maybe 40, 20, 40.
I feel like if you opted into this webinar, you must know a little bit about it.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Okay.
We've got 63% of people say, yes, I do use deep links. 15% say, I'm not sure. Totally fair. I hear you. And then 21% say no. So that's a pretty good breakdown. So let's get started. I want to kick us off by kind of just introducing deep links as a concept. If you've ever wondered how companies can take an email and cater an experience to a desktop user, so someone who opens that email and clicks through on desktop, and opens the same email on mobile and has a completely different experience being drawn into the app without crazy HTML and media queries and having those buttons that say only show on desktop, and on mobile, let's use a completely different link. And additionally, how a link kind of takes you to the App Store if you don't have the app downloaded, but directly into the app if you do. It's no longer a mystery. This is a deep link. And deep links kind of work by being contextual to your brand. So these are links that actually store contextual information, whether it be delivering you straight into a specific page on site or sending you directly into your app. And this kind of scenario has become harder as privacy changes have continued to kind of change the landscape for linking and attribution. Additionally, why is there mystery around deep links? In my experience as a lifecycle marketer, it's been really difficult to understand ownership. So my experience has been most often product owns the app experience. And with that comes specifying the parameters of really where a user could go inside the app or on site. But really, marketing, if given the opportunity to leverage deep links more often, are going to deliver incredible value on them, right? Additionally, setup, there's a little bit of mystery with setup, right? Without a deep linking tool like Branch or maybe a marketing automation tool like Customer IO, delivering the right message at the right time can be really difficult as well. So when resources are limited, seems easiest at times to send the customer directly to the homepage instead of creating a deep link or delivering that personalization that will pay off in the long run.
Cool. Well said, Naomi. I have to say, for someone who doesn't work at Branch, that is pretty good telling of like what deep linking is, how it works. But in the original topic of like why we wanted to have this conversation, and really my curiosity in asking Naomi a little bit more about what she deals with on an everyday basis, what we see internally at Branch is the problem that exists for email marketers when it comes to deep linking. And for those who do send many email campaigns and are trying to deep link, what we see the main problem being when it comes to email specifically is the way that deep linking works, and the way that deep links often are not able to do what they're supposed to do when you put them in email in the first place. So for those who are already pretty knowledgeable of, just setting up email campaigns, what you'll know is links that come or that you place within your email templates are wrapped with click tracking domains. That actually allows for the ESP to track clicks and opens, but doesn't necessarily allow for deep linking to occur to the specific content in the app. So generally, you have to choose one or the either. If you say have deep linking that is, going from an email link to the app, oftentimes you don't have attribution. So really, that's what we see in the market as the major problem. ESPs, of course, they want the analytics, they want to see performance. But at the end of the day, if the ESP has that, then you probably aren't getting the level of deep linking that you want. So we can move on to the next slide. So really, what does that mean at the end of the day? With so many emails going out on a day-to-day basis from so many brands, you can think about your company in particular. What does it mean when you can't actually tie down funnel conversions that may happen in the app back to email as the channel? We often see that, when a user clicks on a link in email, they're taken to the mobile website, and then it's kind of a black box. You have no idea what happens from there. And email marketers, in my opinion, should know the down funnel kind of results of all the hard work and creativity and awesome things that they do. And that's really where we see the major opportunity, given it seems to be more of an education opportunity with this, because most email marketers aren't involved in the kind of decision or ownership for deep linking and in the setup. So with that, I think we can move on as well. Mm-hmm. Oh, do you have any comments there, Naomi, before we kind of dive into your...
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely been in my opinion, the way marketing sometimes can feel is we're last to know, we're last to be involved. and we are given copy and imagery and a strategy to execute and send out. And it's fantastic when we are given a seat at the table where we can say, what's the ideal life cycle we want our user to have? And here are the tools and the tech stack that can kind of help us build that life cycle strategy out. So I've worked in roles before where, you know, I've seen the problems. I've had a link and it's been just to the homepage. And I'm like, but we have an app. Don't we want to link into the app? And sometimes the feedback is like, oh, we don't have a solution for that. Or like, no, just send them to the homepage. They'll find their way. But when you have the opportunity to use a marketing automation tool and couple that up with a tool like Branch, where you're given links that not only take people to the places that your copy is telling them where they're going, and then as a marketer, you can see what they've done after they've clicked on that link. Like that's really the dream scenario here as a marketer. So yeah, I'm on the same page, which is good. I put together some fun email examples that I want to kind of outline as fantastic kind of primed examples for deep linking. I think, you know, as marketers, if you're in the SaaS space, this is probably a poll we should have run, but if you're a SaaS marketer, you're most likely, you have some kind of app component maybe. And potentially, if your business started out as web first, could be one of your goals, whether it's right now or down the line, to increase the amount of app downloads that your business has, potentially because things are ungated, or there's, you know, more money to make once people are inside the app. But I wanted to talk through some of these examples that I primarily saw as web-based companies and how fantastic the experience could be if they used deep links. So the first example is Glassdoor. If you're not familiar with what Glassdoor is, they're one of those companies that you can go and review employers, right? So they're a fantastic kind of online company for looking up job seeking or seeking vengeance if you've had a bad experience at an employer previously. But here in this email example, they are introducing kind of the value piece of their app. And if you've been ever applying for jobs or you've used Glassdoor in the past, this for me would be a web experience. I'd be on my computer, I'd be applying for jobs, I'd have LinkedIn open on a tab, I would have Glassdoor opened, I'd have my resume PDF ready to go to attach onto job applications. And so Glassdoor is introducing a mobile experience here. And if their audience on email was primarily on desktop, I would hope that kind of the main images would link out to the desktop experience, but kind of the get it on Google Play and download on the App Store, that's going to drive a completely different experience on mobile. Cotton is a sustainable clothing brand. They're a certified B Corp, and they have launched an app this year. Primarily, again, they were you know, a desktop or mobile web experience where you would go and shop and order. Everyone knows how online shopping works, I think. But they introduced an app. And similar experience, I think, you know, if you were to click on the main image here, that could be a deep link, could be kind of attached as a deep link, and it would take you to download the app on mobile. Or if you're on desktop, drive you to the traditional desktop view of shopping online. And then the third example for Drizzly, if you've ever used Drizzly, similar experience, you know, they're advertising getting the app. So on mobile, if that is the main value prop, it's going to drive you to the mobile app if you have it downloaded, or the App Store. Or if you open this email on desktop, same kind of thing, drive you straight to the web.
I love these examples you put together, Naomi. You're always so creative on LinkedIn. You're always thinking about things differently. Just a few questions before we keep the flow moving. I guess when you're thinking about the actual setup, you know, like these are awesome campaigns, but like, where would you place deep links? Slash, you know, what has that process looked like for you in the past?
Yeah. So, you know, I don't necessarily think that all links need to be deep links. It depends on the main call to action and ideally the revenue event that you're trying to drive. For example, the Glassdoor piece, those two App Store buttons, 100% deep links. Main image, if someone clicks on that phone, I would expect to be a deep link to cater to that experience, whether it's opened on mobile or on web. The kind of little images as you scroll down through the email, those could be traditional links that would drive to the mobile web. Maybe they're going to a blog article or documentation, and maybe that doesn't live in the app. So those I think would be completely fine. But yeah, I think any kind of deep link I would expect to be correlated with the main CTA, whether it's a deep link or a web link, sorry, I should say. But yeah.
In terms of the actual links that you would place in though, like from your experience, what does that look like? Because I am curious, from the email marketer's perspective, like we want a deep link.
Yeah. So my experience primarily has, been using a tool like Branch where you can create the link directly, or if I, as a lifecycle marketer, do not have the ability to get the link, I have to chase product who owns Branch for that link. And then it depends on the ESP if they support an integration with Branch or not. So Customer IO, they support an integration with Branch. Otherwise, I do have to open up the HTML, turn off click tracking, put the email link in. It's a process. It's a process. Yeah.
Thanks.
But you got to do it. You got to do it for the personalized experience.
Totally.
So, worth
totally
it.
Hear you.
Yeah. Okay, I have some more email examples. I hope everyone here likes examples. Do you like examples? I'm sorry. So on the other hand, if you are a brand that is mobile first and you want to dive in kind of hard on that mobile first approach, I would hope that you would still kind of think about some kind of fallback experience that takes into account what happens when, on a desktop, when a user clicks on that email that is meant to be primarily mobile first. So in the example with Yelp, they have an app where you can go and actually put your name down on the wait list. And let's say that capability isn't offered on web, which is totally fine, but maybe potentially you want to offer kind of a different experience, driving them to the Yelp web experience that has a blog article or documentation on why getting on the wait list is like the best thing to do from your phone, because really, who does want to go wait in line, right? No one. If I, on a brunch Sunday, knew that I could get on a wait list from my couch, I totally would, versus going out in the rain. I'm from Vancouver, it's very cold. I would definitely do that. So that's a reason for me to download that. Then again, we have the example on the middle. This is a lot of kind of product features, recommending the app. Potentially, if you only offer a product that is mobile first, maybe you have a very simple landing page, just outlining the exact same approach that the email kind of outlines of why you want the app. So it's just backing up kind of the email's approach with the mobile screenshots. And then the AllTrails example, if you've never used AllTrails, it's really cool. Again, this could just be an experience that takes into account if someone opens this on their computer when they're primarily an app user, what experience do you want them to have? You don't want to give them just like an alltrails.com landing page experience. They already have your app. What kind of value can you give them on the desktop? Good examples, right? One agrees? Good.
Definitely.
Okay. So now we're actually going to demystify what's up with deep links. Why do people have problems with them? So I think the first kind of thing when it comes to customer lifecycle marketing is quite complex, right? You want to deliver information at the right time. You don't want to send a welcome email 3 days after someone signed up. You don't want to send customers to a broken link if they don't have your app installed. You want these kind of automations to work seamlessly in the back end. So in this customer IO automation example on the left, someone signs up to your platform from your website. But let's say you are a mobile first platform where you have a website to attract visitors and leads and potential customers, but a lot of your value is actually going to be within your mobile app that's offered on iOS and Android. So do you continuously just write copy in your emails that encourages people to download the app over and over and over again on their own accord? I think there's a really better way that allows you to focus on key messaging while allowing the experience to be shaped in a natural way. So with the use of a deep link, you could say in your email, update your billing settings. Like, let's say that's the first thing you want them to do. Instead of saying download our app and update our billing settings. And taking a step back, looking at your goals as a marketer, I think it's really kind of key to think about what life cycle you're trying to create. So when I think of a customer life cycle, I usually think of, I want to activate a customer. I want to educate them. So make them aware of my value as a business. Maybe this means educating them with kind of tool tips or pushing them to take a specific action. But as a marketer, you could also be tasked with increasing the number of app downloads from the App Store. And since the app is kind of your key product that's directing you, you need to kind of push email subscribers to, even though they may have discovered your business or brand on desktop, all while using kind of email as a medium for communication. And finally, this is really what all stakeholders, care about, is the revenue event. Are you converting people so that you can say you're really bringing people, you're bringing people in, you're generating money. It's the important part, right? So again, with those goals in mind, there are a lot of factors that impact email successes. One is timing, right? What external factors could be influencing or reducing engagement? If those are your 3 goals, and maybe you're a SaaS tool trying to send at the highest peak time during Black Friday or Cyber Monday, you're probably gonna have lower engagement. I'm really sorry about that. Again, devices, right? Are they opening it up on iOS, on Android, on their Mac, on their PC? What does that look like? And then you have email clients. How are email clients interpreting your links? Are they interpreting your emails differently? How does Outlook ruin your email? Sorry, Outlook fans, they do a lot of bad things to email designs. Your email design could totally impact the email success. Inbox placement, call to action. There's many things that will impact email success. So that's something to keep in mind when you're thinking of a life cycle. And really, without a deep link solution, you could potentially be dropping users into the abyss. So you don't have the ability to send contextual links without separate flows, and separate flows are totally fine, but it's not very scalable. And without tracking, you really don't have insights into what's going on inside the app. So without deep links, when a link is clicked to deliver a user into the app, similar to kind of the diagram I showed before, the user will be checked to determine if they have the app downloaded, and if so, they'll drop them into the correct spot. So kind of in the example I want to lay out is, I want a user to update their account settings after they've signed up. And if they don't have the app downloaded, the link will deliver them to the App Store to kind of take that action on their own accord. But if you're wanting to deliver the right message, which is to update account settings inside the app without confusing people that already have the app downloaded or don't have the app downloaded, without a deep linking solution, this may be something you'll need to kind of segment within your marketing automation solution. So this is kind of what I'm doing in the example here on the left. And with the deep linking solution, where you can kind of, have someone clearly go into the app if they have it downloaded or not, you can keep your messaging clear. So I don't need extra information such as has downloaded app as an attribute that lives on the user profile, collected from the data team, and my copy and my emails can really remain focused. And then 2, I can have a really consistent cross-device experience. So as a marketer, whether the user opens my email on desktop or mobile, I can rest assured they will not be hitting a 404 or be dropped into a page that doesn't fit the messaging, which is nice. Yeah, now we've got some really fun use cases. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, well said. Again, I think one of the things that we think about often is, this is specifically around email, but just links in all of your channels, whether or not those can kind of deliver that right experience for the user based on, where they find themselves engaging with your various marketing properties. But some specific use cases in regards to email, we're definitely excited to walk through. At a high level, you'll see that we have many successful stories of companies that are using universal email, the branch solution, to be able to deep link from email and also preserve click tracking for the ESP. Instacart saw a 6x increase in click to purchase rates. Again, that's something that you can only really see if you can track for the events and tie them back to email in the first place. Shutterfly drove 24 million additional app opens.
That's a lot.
And then one that you'll see with Zoffel in one of our breakdowns just here in a few minutes drove 210% increase in revenue from email marketing. I think that's really, at the end of the day, what we're trying to kind of bring to more email marketers is just that visibility. So how do we do it? And what are some examples? Next slide.
Okay, I do want to say before we jump into this one that my stance on add to cart campaigns is any brand can do it regardless of the industry. I think we think of like add to cart as maybe a traditional e-commerce industry, but I've implemented this as well as the traditional kind of like abandon cart campaign at multiple SaaS brands that I've worked at. And just by tweaking it, thinking of the same behavior of what you want the subscriber to do, it's very successful. So just putting it out there. If you're like, wait, I'm not in e-commerce, this is for you too, even if you're in SaaS.
Okay, so with that said, very helpful context. This is an example of what Branch does with KFC. So what you're actually seeing here is the email template has a Branch deep link behind the call to action, which is 10 for $10. And when it's clicked, so in the give me 10 actual call to action button, there's a bunch going on behind the scenes. One is Branch has a direct integration with the ESP so that all of the tracking analytics are sent to them. Nothing is kind of messed up there. But also you're able to do a more sophisticated level of deep linking, where in this case, you're taking a promotion in an email campaign and automatically loading it into a cart within the app. So from the Branch perspective, this is all about just eliminating maybe redundant clicks that a user would have to make, as well as just being able to send that user directly into a loaded cart ready to purchase. Something we see many QSRs doing, but also as Naomi has mentioned, like this can pretty much apply to any company in any vertical who is trying to encourage a certain action to be taken.
What's a QSR?
Quick service restaurant.
Ah, okay. Here we go.
Right. Thank you for, definitely need to clarify there. So this is just the user experience side, right? Branch is always going to, number one, make sure that deep links work in all scenarios, especially within email. This is definitely one of those top use cases that you can think about Branch in, but also from the attribution perspective, like how are you able to tie this purchase back to the email channel originally? And the answer is yes. So when you work with Branch, you can expect this level of deep linking, as well as just be able to actually see which purchases came from email in the first place.
When I look at this as an email marketer, I just think about how much unnecessary copy I can eliminate from the email. Because if I don't have a deep link and I'm trying to get them to essentially add a 10-piece of tenders into their cart, like that's my one goal with this email. I'm like, okay, we're going to have to do an ordered list. It's going to start with open the app, and then it's going to go search 10 for 10 tenders. Click on that as the third bullet point, click add to cart. And then you'll also probably have to have some extra call outs saying like discount is automatically applied or something like this. But having this experience where there's so many less hoops to jump through and way less copy, like simplicity is everything, right? And if you can just say, give me 10 and it adds it to the cart, like way more conversions, way less hoops to jump through, which is fun.
And we had a lot of smart people on this call. I would be curious what other ideas may be out there for stuff like this, but it's really a one tap to loaded cart for anything you can think of. And then being able to take that real-time attribution and bring it back to your team. Like, this is how the campaign's going.
Yeah. This would be such like I feel like a night and day. If you implemented this, I feel like there would be an immediate increase in the amount of conversions from an email, especially if you couldn't track conversions before. So there we go.
Totally. And this is, of course, a very sophisticated kind of deep linking into the app, but a lot of email marketers still don't even deep link to the app.
Yeah.
So, I mean, another example, cart abandonment. I know that you had mentioned this previous to us going through the use cases, but this is an example of what any brand could theoretically do if they were able to segment the amount of users that had left something in their cart. We can actually show the example. I think it's wine.com, right? Yeah. So another, pretty straightforward example of Branch at the end of the day is going to be the vehicle to, allow the user to be deep linked directly into that product that they've left in their cart. I think from your perspective, Naomi, like, have you seen a lot of the setup when it relates to like, how do we target these users in the first place? And like, how easy is that to like kind of combine forces?
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple things that go into targeting. For an abandoned cart campaign, you obviously need to define a trigger event of like, are we tracking when someone abandons their cart, right? I think I said this to you the other day, but I don't understand who would abandon wine in their cart. It makes no sense to me. It's like an immediate purchase. But I implemented an abandoned cart campaign at one of my last roles, and we needed to know when someone obviously made it to the payment page, and then the conversion event, which is completed purchase, right? And those two events we needed in our marketing automation tool like Customer IO to trigger the kind of flow.
For sure.
So when someone abandoned their cart and never made it through purchasing, that's how we would send this email out. And I think my manager came up with the subject line. It was a online invoicing tool, and she wrote the subject line out as like, don't put this off like a software update, like you've forgotten something kind of thing. Because we all forget the software updates, right? No one wants to spend time updating their computer. But yeah, in terms of triggering an email like this, all you need to know is what happens when they hit their cart and then when they don't purchase. And it should be fairly straightforward to send this out. And the use of a deep link, again, taking them directly to their cart is fantastic.
For sure. And one of the things I think we've also talked about a lot is, these moments of intent. And if anyone takes anything away from this, I think one is email can really hit people with, say, something that they had put in their cart yet last night when they were drinking a little bit of wine. And the branch link and what branch can help with is just making sure that conversion happens at the highest efficiency rate. So just another caveat there.
Oh, it's great. Less hoops to jump through again.
Okay, engagement. I think this one is like the no-brainer to me for most email campaigns. Like, why wouldn't you, if you have a strong, like, or a high percentage of customers that already have the app, why not just deep link them from whatever they're just kind of window shopping via email to those specific SKUs within the app? So very, nuts and bolts use case for branch. One thing that we haven't really discussed is like, how would that happen? With a direct integration like customer.io and branch, immediately you turn all of your email links into deep links. So what Naomi had mentioned about creating manually a deep link, that's of course one thing that you can do when you're wanting to place a deep link behind a CTA. But when you have that kind of collaboration between the ESP and branch, that's where you really get to save a lot of time because it just turns the great outdoors into something that automatically is a branch deep link.
Yeah. I love this strategy. I think that, if you know that your highest purchasers, like someone who has purchased from your brand 3 times is your most loyal customer, and someone who has done that specific action maybe has a session once a week, creating an email like this where you just link them into the app to try and time that same behavior is like a brilliant strategy. I see Uber Eats doing it to me all the time. They want me back in the app. They want me ordering. And same with kind of e-commerce companies too, right? You just want to get them back in the app so that they're tempted. They're tempted to buy some stuff. And I have fallen victim to it. I am creating this strategy and I'm my own worst enemy here by following suit. Speaking of shopping.
So this is somewhat in relation to the add to cart example, but one of the ways that you can also think about email and deep linking from email is just being able to pass the promotion through to the app. In the app, they most likely already have all their payment information saved. And so when you're thinking about how do we, send even potentially a specific promotion to just like that highly engaged base, like you had mentioned, Naomi, like folks who had purchased 3 things in the past. how can we target those folks with email, with promotions that automatically load into the app and just make it very easy for them to transact. And this is one of those case studies where 210% increase in revenue. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that email is driving revenue. I think it's more of how many steps does it take for that user to, in some cases, click on the email and be like, why isn't this taking me to the app? Go and open the app themselves separately, buy the thing. And unfortunately, Naomi and all of the email marketers out there are not getting credit for that. So
I know.
that's, from our perspective, that's something that is a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I want the credit.
Let's get you the credit.
All right, so we're going to give you credit by creating a lifecycle plan. This is essentially where we can start to understand how to integrate a tool like Branch, or just advocate internally for something like Branch, or just if you are using deep links, maybe talk about your wins from the use of deep links. So we'll cover everything. I'm sure that most marketers, understand the end goal for what their subscribers are going to do with various call to actions. But what I like to do is I like to create a Miro board. If you haven't used Miro, it's a really fun whiteboarding tool. And I map out the entire life cycle of who this person is when they come to me for the very first time and who I want them to be. And it usually kind of starts with activating them with their first session on the app. What things do I want them to do to get from the website where they maybe signed up to our newsletter straight through to downloading our app? And then really, what's the first event we want to get them to do? In my last role, I worked at Invoice to Go. And so many of my goals were centered around getting someone to send their very first invoice from our app. Kind of the slogan was your office in your back pocket. And we wanted people to feel like they could take their invoicing solution with them to the job site, and not feel the need to kind of carry around a desktop computer. So that was really the first event that I geared people towards. And there were sub events that I wanted them to kind of take action with first, which is to upload their logo so that when they did send an invoice, it could have their business logo on it, and to add their billing information so that they could get paid when someone paid their invoice. So although there was one key event, there were some sub steps that I needed to encourage them towards. And then the middle is obviously monetization. How do I get them to subscribe? If you have kind of one free invoice, how do I get them to send a second invoice so that they are now a monetized user of my company? And then how do I retain them? How do I create a sticky brand so that these people never leave me? And I can say I've done a lot with email. And I think this involves with kind of meeting with the right team. So as I mentioned, it can sometimes feel with deep links that there is a lack of ownership, or that as a lifecycle marketer or an email marketer, or if there's any digital marketers that are wearing like 15 hats on the call with us today, how do you feel like you have a seat at the table so that you can start to implement the strategy that you really want to create? And these are the teams that I would recommend meeting with. Put feelers out there, introduce yourself, say, hey, this is what I've been thinking. These are the problems that I have. Make time for yourself with product. These are the people that are probably going to be the source of truth to help set up deep links and are very familiar with the app. Talk to your data and BI teams if you have them to understand data naming conventions and how currently events are streaming in to trigger communication within a marketing automation tool. And then if you have a QA team, to kind of walk through testing emails to make sure that the deep links are working exactly the way that you want them to, or maybe there is a better place to send them into your app and there's a different deep link you want to use. Connect with those people just to understand the processes for that. And this is my favorite, create a tracking plan so that when you do start showcasing all your wins, you can accurately say like, hey, yeah, I did see a 210% increase in revenue from this channel that I own, and then ask for a raise right after that. But over time, I think really as you start to cater a better experience to your customers, you should see really an increase in conversion rates, right? Because you're telling the customer the right message at the right time. And then additionally, you should also see kind of an increase in engagement metrics as well, because people will become more trained to recognize the positive experiences they've had with you in the past. Mick, I'll pass this one to you.
Yeah, all great points. I feel like what I love about this is that we really built this for the email marketer. It is not really about deep linking. At the end of the day, deep linking is part of the toolkit that you can use. But really, one thing to kind of wrap it up with, at least from the branch perspective, is that when you think about deep linking from the email channel, and you think about the ESP or just like the process in which you're sending emails today, what Branch is going to add on top of what all of Naomi just shared is what happens when the user enters the app. And can you tie all those conversions, all those purchases, or even just the events that may be those custom events that really matter for your brand, back to email, so that you can really argue for the credit that you do deserve. And especially in this macro and economic environment, I'm sure everyone's saying that right now. How can the email channel really understand its true value, as well as, take its fair share of marketing dollars so that, at the end of the day, they can help their company grow. So I think really at the end of the day, Branch is here to help connect the dots there. But you can know that from our perspective, we're here championing you guys because we know how important email is, and for all the ways that people, see trends happening and how you can like drive growth to brands, email is always going to be a constant. So with that said, I don't know if I missed anything there. We can jump into questions. I do see one that came in from Wendy. She says, do you use one deep link that will open up web on web and app on mobile? So I think the wording here is a little bit confusing. Wendy, feel free to clarify there. But from our perspective, what you're able to do with Branch in email and all of your other channels is have one link that will understand what platform or what situation the user is in. And from there, you're able to design the experience. You can take a user to web if you want them to go there, or you can take them into the app. So either one is possible. And what you get with Branch out of the box is basically the best in class way of understanding where that user's at and the flexibility.
Yeah, I think I can speak to two. Like previously, before I had a deep linking solution, what I would do is in my email builder, when I was crafting my campaigns, I would have to come up with two CTA buttons, one which I would hide on mobile and the other which I would hide on desktop. And each would have to have their respective links so that when the email is created, depending on the width of the screen size that it's opened on, it would be interpreted as either desktop or mobile. With the use of a deep link, when you click it, regardless of whether you're on mobile, it would take you to the right place. So if you wanted them to go into the app or download the app store, if you open it on your phone, it would take you to that place. If on desktop where you don't have the Android app store, it would take you to the corresponding web spot that you want them to go.
Wow, we got a lot of questions coming in here now.
Love
Shout out to the email marketers out there. Let's go. Let's see. So Christine's just saying, thank you. Awesome info. Anonymous attendee is asking if this is effective with SMS as well. Yes, that's correct. So when you think about Branch and just the deep linking that we do, we cover the most edge cases. So like you'll hear a lot about deep linking in general, but Branch created deep linking. We cover every channel, every situation where you would want to take a user into the app. And so, yes, we definitely cover for SMS. Let's see, Beth, if you're using a mix of regular links and deep links in the same email, would the ESP clicks still register for both? Ooh, I think this one's for you, Naomi, but I can also try and speak to it after.
Yeah, so if you do have an ESP that integrates with a solution like Branch, you should be able to track the clicks, no problem. Other times, if you're using an ESP that actually that wraps the links super weird at send time for kind of the ability of click tracking, there's going to be issues. And so previously, when I've used deep links in an ESP or a marketing automation tool that didn't integrate them together, I would actually have to go into the HTML and turn off click tracking for the links that were deep links. It was like one of those trade-offs that in my marketing, reporting weekly meetings with my manager and other stakeholders, I was like, this is just the downfall of the experience we want to create because the tools that we're using. I want to be able to drive that personalized experience into the app. And the trade-off is turning off click tracking. If you're using two tools that integrate with one another, you should be able to track those links completely fine. No problems.
To that as well. If you're looking for help because you're like, how do I quantify what this would do for my team, or like what turning on deep linking could potentially do from email, Branch has an internal business team that could help quantify that. So if you are curious, we do have a whole ROI team that would basically run the numbers on what it would mean from a dollars perspective to just turn on deep linking, from, the amount of emails that you send, a few other metrics that we, would need, but just letting those out there who are curious, that is something that we do offer. Okay, let's see. How do you think about using deep linking in other marketing communications sent via other mediums? So from the Branch perspective, I mean, it's going to be case by case based on whether or not you have parity between the web and the app, and there's different capabilities on either platform, but we can deep link from any one of these situations, whether or not it's WhatsApp, SMS, push notifications. As mentioned, like there are thousands of use cases, and Branch exists as a company to make sure that you never have to worry about the changes that Apple or Google makes. It ends up breaking all the links. And a lot of folks, especially in the Bay Area, are like, well, we can build this in-house. Branch exists, so you really don't have to worry about it because it is immensely complicated. Okay, Hans, what are the main differences between email and push notifications when it comes to deep links? Does everything that you reviewed today apply to push notifications as well? Naomi, I think you got the easy answer for this one.
Sorry, off mute. What are the main differences between email and push notifications when it comes to deep links? Well, I guess the first thing with push notifications is they are only being delivered on a mobile device. So you don't really have to think about that web backup experience. I guess where you would integrate the web experience is if you're doing web-based push notifications, which is also a whole other conversation. But I think with everything we've reviewed today, it totally applies to push notifications. It's all about reaching them at the right time, knowing that push notifications are much more invasive than an email. So you're hitting them on I guess you could have notifications on for email too, but I find push, you're in their face and you have so much little copy to kind of communicate your main message. So that's one thing to keep in mind. I would craft copy that is specific to where you're dropping them in the app and making sure you're not being like, open this push notification and win $1,000 if that's not where you're taking them in the app. So just being as clear as possible. But yeah, exact same.
And I would also just add there that if you're wondering like what the mix should be between how many emails a user should receive versus how many push notifications a user should receive, what you can do is you can track how conversions happen.
Mm-hmm.
Just putting branch links behind your push notifications as well.
Yeah, I actually wanted to jump to Jerome's question really quickly before I hit Ryan. Sorry. I think he's asking, can you configure different CTAs from one deep link depending if a user is going to the desktop site versus the mobile app, or do they have to be the same CTA? This would depend on how you've built the email. In my experience using a drag and drop builder like BeFree.io that is integrated into Customer.io as Customer.io's drag and drop builder, I would do that same approach that I mentioned where I have two CTA buttons with different copy. One's hidden on desktop and one's hidden on mobile. In the example that maybe I want to drive someone to shop a collection on the app, and I want someone to read about the collection if they open that email on web, I would just have two CTAs, same deep link on both, but the desktop version would just have copy that's specific to where you're taking them on the web. So similar situation of like same deep link, different copy, you're just creating a more personalized experience. Hopefully that answers your question. And now we can move on to Ryan's. So can you talk on a broader perspective about what type of conversions Branch is seeing with deep links when it comes to email and how it compares to other channels? Nick?
Yeah. Off the top of my head, email is one of the highest converting channels for deep linking. That's why it's always a surprise to me that so many email marketers don't really have a say in the conversation, because it's an own channel, right? You can think about paid advertisement and how much money your company probably throws into the paid ads team. We typically see email being a higher conversion because those users are already engaged with your brand. You're not paying for them to either install the app for the first time or just get their attention. And so when you place deep links behind email, it already means that you're trying to reinforce what you already know about this customer, which is they're engaged with you. And so I think it's case by case in terms of like the percentage lift that you could see. But if you're an e-commerce company and you're not deep linking from email, I mean, you can expect a significant increase in revenue based on just deep linking from email. Okay. Ooh, this is a good one. Interesting.
A fun little ending one to top us off. Naomi, have you used AppsFlyer in the past? If so, what ways is Branch easier to use than AppsFlyer? For example, less engineering lift, better reporting. So to be completely transparent, I have used AppsFlyer in the past. And to be also completely transparent, I have never been in a role where a tool like AppsFlyer and Branch have been integrated. I've always jumped into a team where the tool's been there, either owned by some product I'm not really, or some team like product that I'm not super close with, or I haven't had it at all, or I've had a little bit of access. I can speak to what I love about Branch. I think for me, it's the really easy to understand UI, the integrations. So I could fully see like a library of integrations where I can drive my links into, whether it be Customer.io or another tool. Maybe it's kind of paid ads that wants to use a deep link for encouraging app downloads on a Facebook paid ad. And for me too, I find that Branch just understands a lot of my marketing use cases. So Mick and I have had multiple calls over the past 6 months where we're just really chatting back and forth about lifecycle strategy. And for me, that is really important for the tool to understand the pain points that I face and just genuine curiosity and understanding how the product can solve for those. So that is what I will say.
Thanks, Naomi. Well, you're super interesting and fun to talk to. So that's also definitely part of it. I guess only other caveat there is that Branch grew up in the owned and organic space. So being able to take the audience that you do have on your marketing channels already and just turn them into, send them to the place where they're most likely to engage with you and convert. That's been our mission from the beginning. Whereas others in the space started in paid advertisement. So that for what it's worth.
We do have one more thing, actually. I'll go back to this super, super quick. We have a nice little survey.
Oh, yes.
Feedback survey. Everyone loves surveys, right? So thank you everyone for attending.
You've made it this far too.
I know.
Yeah, 55 minutes in. Thank you so much for attending. If you can, please take the survey. We are constantly looking for feedback so that we can say, have Naomi back on. We can go into even more like in-depth use cases for email.
Say that. Yeah.
And even, ROI examples potentially. So please just send us what you can. Otherwise, if there are no other questions, you can feel free to reach out to us, individually too on LinkedIn. And any other closing thoughts, Naomi?
No, that's all. Yeah, please let us know what you think. And if you ever have any email questions specifically, you can tweet me at email from Naomi or ping Mick and I on LinkedIn, or we'll be there.
Let's get the credit for email marketers.
Yeah, give me some credit. All right. Thank you everyone for attending. I'm going to close this out.